Greetings my lovelies, and thank you for stopping by the circle today. Today's video is going to be all about the Song of the Dark Crystal, which is the second book in the Dark Crystal saga, which is a companion series running along with Netflix's show Age of Resistance. So let's get started. So for those of you who are not aware of, Netflix has started a revival of the Dark Crystal franchise with the Age of Resistance. It completed its first season. I have no idea when we're going to get the second season. I want the second season. I have been a huge fan of the Dark Crystal since I was probably too young to really be watching it because it's kind of scary when you think about it. I was obsessed. I have the book with all the behind the scenes crap in it and everything. Love the Dark Crystal. And I love this new iteration of it with the mix of puppetry and CGI. And it's delish. So when I found out that there was a book series that was kind of like a companion series to the show itself, I was like, oh, hell yes, I need to read this. So I went ahead and I read the first one, and it was really good. And if you want to see my review on that one, it is going to be somewhere up here. I always get confused with the flip around where it's at, so look for the little thingamajiggers. Anyways, so this one is the second book. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about the plot. So this book basically picks up right after the events of the first book, and it had been some time since I read it, so it took me a few hot minutes to realize what happened. So it still follows along with Nia and Kaylin as they have escaped from the Crystal Castle and have gone into Stone in the Wood. And here they run into Rian. And it's been a while since I had watched the show, so I wasn't really 100% sure that things are lining up correctly, but I don't care because it's all entertaining. So while the first book focuses mainly on Nia, this book focuses primarily on Kylan. And this is more about his journey and sort of him finding his place in this resistance fight. So his fears in this story is that he's not good enough. He is a singer, he's not particularly athletic, he's not a warrior, he really doesn't have much to offer. He's the bard in the D&D group, and he feels like he's inadequate compared to the barbarians and the paladins and the whatevers. I don't play D&D, but I guess it was a kind of good analogy. Whatevers. So after meeting Rian, they are trying to find a way to warn all the Gelflings about what the Skeksis are doing in the castle and what the machine has done. And so Rian wants to go straight to the Almadra, who is the head queen of all the Gelfling clans. And Nea and Kylan want to have a backup to tell everybody in case something happens to Rian or the Almadra doesn't believe him. So while Rian goes forward, they are looking for this magic bone flute thing that will create these special seeds that will carry a message, and that any Gelfling can touch it and dream fast, which is their way to psychic communication, and then the truth, no matter what happens to the people who know it, will continue to go forward. And if you watch the show, you might be thinking this sounds familiar to the scene where they're in the desert and Kaylin plays a flute when they sing about the Almadra's death and it flies off and the people come back. They had to go get that flute. He didn't just have it because it's this very special holy relic-y thing. So to get it, they have to go to the Groton people and they mingle along there. We meet a couple of new characters. The shit hits the fan like usual, and they actually have to make a new flute, but it works. And then Kaylin realizes by the end of it that he is the only one who could, in turn, make the flute and play the flute well enough that the message would carry forward. So let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the new characters that we have that were introduced into the story. So we meet a couple of more. We meet another mystic and his Skeksis counterpart, I guess. That's kind of how these books are going, is that we're meeting the mystic and the Skeksis in pairs as they relate to each other. And if you don't know, sorry, spoiler, but the Skeksis and the Mystics are two beings, but they share a soul because they originally came from one being. The Urusex, I do believe is what it's called. Don't quote me, I'm not 100% sure. Anyways, so we meet Lee, and he's a mystic who is living with the Grottons as kind of like a relic keeper. But he's not quite all there. He's sort of semi-lost in the past. And, you know, he just kind of meanders around. And then the Skeksis that we meet is Skekli, and he is the jester. And I think he's the guy with like all the glasses, though I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me. It was a little hard to figure out who he was in the book. And the pictures of all the Skeksis kind of look the same unless they're the Chamberlain or the Hunter or the General or the Emperor. But yeah. So the jester is trying to go after the Gelflings because he is tired of being a joke. Which I guess, but hey, you're the jester, that's your fucking job. And so he tries to thwart Naya and Kaylin about their thing. And then we have, I can't remember, I didn't write it down. But anyway, it's Brienne's older sister, not the one that becomes the All-Madre, but the one that dies? I'm not sure. But anyway, she gets taken over by like one of those little weird spider creatures that can control whatever, a body. And the spider is trying to stop them from doing it, but the princess is fighting against the spider. That was weird. So her essence ends up getting switched into one of the crystal spider things. It's very confusing, and like that was like probably the most confusing part of the whole book. And then we meet another little Grotton kiddo named Ami, who has been sneaking up to the surface. Although this kid is not in the show, so I don't know how this kid's going to play in later on with the rest of the series. And I think those are all the characters. So let's go to my final thoughts. This book was a bit more confusing because I remember some things from the show, but like I said earlier, like I don't think that the book really meshed well, like chronologically with events that happened in the show versus what happened in the book. But then again, I could be wrong because it has been a hot minute, and I'm not going to rewatch an entire series every time I want to read a book that goes along with it. I mean, I might, but it just depends on my mood. But I love Kaylin's story. I really, really do. And I do like that he is the main focus of this story because, you know, he's not a warrior. He's a gentle soul who is in love with stories and loves telling stories. And for a storyteller to find their place in an action adventure, taking a larger role than just a side character who makes broth and plays a flute to offer some condolences, is lovely because not everyone can kick ass and take names, and you need those softer badasses, the people who are gentle by nature but who are still willing to go forward and deal with the shit and stand up for what's right. You still need that type of representation. So all in all, I enjoyed it. I got the next book in the series and I'm ready to add that one to my rotation whenever I get around to it, so who knows what it will be. So without further ado, I am stepping off, but before I do, I must ask the generalized questions. Have you read this book? Are you a fan of the Dark Crystal? And if not, go fucking watch the show. Trust me, it's delicious. Also, I've done some new things to my website, so be sure to check out the link down below and go check it out for yourself. Because it's kind of cool and I worked really, really hard on it. And I got a lot of help from my brother, so thank you, Harry. And anyways, I will see you all on the next video. Bye.